I don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
Awesome. Cool. So, hey, everybody. It's Amber and Sydney here with our weekly podcast. Sorry, we're in a new format, so there's things popping up.
Episode number 2.
Episode 2. Here we go. Can only go up from here. So this week we are discussing social pressures during the holiday season. And the holiday season that we're referencing is Halloween through New Year's, with potentially a little give and take on either side.
Yeah. So the APA, which is the American Psychological Association, defines social pressures as the exertion of influence on a person or group by another person or group. Like group pressure, social pressures includes rational argument and persuasion, informational influence, calls for conformity. I love calls for conformity. Normative influence and direct forms of influence, such as demands, threats, or personal attacks on the one hand, and promises of rewards or social approval on the other hand. So just so you know what social pressure is defined by, that's the kind of like term when we say social pressure. This is what we're referencing.
Yeah. And I think most of us have felt this increase in social pressure with the rise of platforms like Facebook and Instagram, which really highlight events and showcase our friends and family or strangers living their best lives. And we're intelligent people. We know you're intelligent people. But you know, it still makes it hard. Like you're seeing all these wonderful things happening to these new people. They're going these places, they're doing these things. But it is important to remember, as I know I remind myself frequently, that, you know, these platforms do distort reality. They're not showing everyone in their normal habitat, if you will. They're really just showcasing the best moments of what's happening. And not the reality of their overall life, right?
Yeah, I like to think of it as like looking at it like you're in the zoo, like they're just capturing that zoo moment of like you're kind of looking through the glass or through the bars, and they're like, you know, getting to play with their giant beach balls and getting fed by their trainers,
living their best life.
Living their best life.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a good visual. So I think this gets even harder during the holiday season, right? It feels like there are just a plethora of ways in which social pressure is influencing us, not just with social media, but with family and friends in the real life, in the real world. So Sydney, what holiday social pressures are you feeling most, or do you feel most?
I think when I was younger, I felt a lot of social pressures to just show up and be it, like everything. You know, the holiday parties, you know, as you get closer to, for me, Christmas time, I'm sure it feels very similar for those like celebrating Hanukkah and things like that. The closer you get to that major kind of holiday, the more things like fill your calendar. And like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have a Christmas party on Thursday, but I have like cookies and kegs on, you know, Saturday, and like it just becomes this like, for lack of a better word, like a snowball to the main event. And by the time you get to that like main event, whatever that is, you just feel so like I've seen all of you so much that I don't care anymore. Like nothing's new at this point. Like I've gotten to this point where it's like, okay, you know, here we are the day before, and I'm like, I've seen you 12 times already this month. Like I've seen you more in the last 2 weeks than I've seen you all year long. So definitely when I was younger, it was like the need to fill the calendar with and say yes to every event was a big one. And I think now as I've gotten older, it's been more about like what you do at those events. Like I've gotten good at saying no, like, hey, that doesn't work in my time frame, and I'm comfortable like being like, that's all right. Thanks for the invite. But now it's like what actually happens at the social gathering. It's more about food and like alcohol now.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know if the social pressure has lessened as I've gotten older. It's just shifted.
That's fair. Yeah. I can attest. Sydney is very busy during the holidays. I don't see her much. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Amber, what holiday pressures do you feel most? Or like, do you let social pressures like influence you? Because I think like some people are really good at being more recluse during the holidays, but it's like they go to the extreme of like, I don't want to fill my calendar and I don't want to see anybody just because it's the holidays. It feels not genuine, I guess. And so like I have friends who go the opposite way. So like don't feel like this is just for those people who go and fill their calendars. No. There's a lot of different ways that we deal with social pressures.
Yeah. I am not quite the social butterfly that you are. So my calendar does not fill as much. I think the pressure I feel, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week, is more family related and feeling like I need to visit a lot of people during the holidays, which is really hard. Because, we talked last week about the holiday travel and how stressful that is. And so as I've gotten older, I have gotten better, like you said, about saying no and drawing those lines. But it just doesn't work for me. So that was always my biggest pressure, was trying to like figure out how to see everybody when I have family spread all over. So yeah, this year I'm not visiting anybody, which is kind of exciting. The holidays are going to be a very chill time for me for once. So I think, so I guess I'm one of those people that is kind of going the opposite way. And for me, it's going to be, pushing myself out there and actually trying to do things and see people for the holidays. And not just wrap up in a cocoon on my couch watching Hallmark movies. Eating too much food and drinking too much by myself. Yeah.
I just have this like image of you like wrapped in a giant Snuggie with like, the like comical size bottles of wine that like people give as like gag gifts, like, but with like a sippy straw. Like that's the image that I see of you.
That's a perfect image.
I really like it. As somebody who, I think while you were sitting there talking, I kind of went back and was like, okay, define social pressure, the exertion of influence on a person. I was like, oh, okay, I have a lot of, like, I feel internally a lot of pressures. I don't know if necessarily they're external pressures by my, like, friends and family to socialize, but, like, it's definitely me.
It is you.
Like, I just had that revelation. I was like, oh, it's me. I'm the drama. Like, like during the holidays. And I think it comes from like my love of the holidays. Like I've always really enjoyed this time frame because I just, it does seem to bring people out and together, and being somebody who is extroverted and things like that, I've always really enjoyed that because I'm like, okay, now I get to spend some quality time with you. And it's all kind of in this very like contextualized time frame, and it always gives people like stuff to talk about. Like there's so many people in my life that aren't necessarily the most extroverted, and so stories and things around the holidays, like people like to reminisce and they like to share, and it's a great way to like get a little bit more information, and there's always something to talk about, right? And then you don't have to worry about like trying to make small talk, because I hate that. I hate small talk.
Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. So, wow, we were sitting here talking. I had a whole, like, internal monologue about myself. Like, oh, it's me. It's definitely me. And also, like, a little bit of a revelation of, like, I'm the social pressure. Like, I force Shelby out of the house all the time during the holidays. Or you, or, like, it's like,
I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but...
be introspective. Like, I can figure things out on my own and like look inside and be like, oh, it's me.
I mean,
Cool. Well,
that's a good quality.
yeah, I'm so glad we're out here for everybody to see me going, oh, wait, I'm the social pressure.
I mean,
Cool.
at least you could admit that. That's the first step.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's good that we're doing this this episode ahead of the holidays, so I can kind of figure my stuff out before I become that person to everyone in my life.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah. So, how do you keep yourself sane during the holidays? What do you do for yourself during this season?
That's a great question. Despite being pretty extroverted, I really enjoy being at home, and I really try and make my home someplace where other people feel comfortable coming and like gathering too. And so like little things that I do for myself during the holidays is like I'm a big fan of the YouTube ambiances. So
I
like
know you are.
I will put on the YouTube ambiance of like a holiday coffee shop and just like have like jazzy Christmas music on in the background, but like hear like the clinking of like the coffee. So I don't necessarily like go out and spend money, but like I create that sense inside my house. Or I'll have like I really like the woodwick candles, and so like you hear like the crackling and you get the nice smell, and so I take a lot of time to actually just decompress and like enjoy the things that I really enjoy about the holiday season and not jam it packed. Especially now, like I really lean into those things. I also, I make sure that I stay active because it's really easy to like with your holiday calendar getting so filled up. Like I always make sure like during this time of year, I take a walk. Even on like Christmas Day, I'll take a walk. And it's been really easy over the last couple of years because being here in Virginia and Maryland, it's been relatively warm, which is bad for climate. Which is my holiday walk. But I mean, a few years ago, one of my nieces got a tricycle, and we were able to put it together and like go out and like ride, and she could ride the tricycle, and we could go for a walk. And so it's just like not forgetting to like move my body during this time of year, because it's really easy to be like, oh, I've had 3 mimosas and some chocolate chip cookies. Like, why should I bother at this point? So that's kind of what I do. Is I actually lean just hard into like the calmer things that I enjoy about the holiday season. Highly recommend the YouTube ambiances. You can even Google Harry Potter ambiance on there. It'll be like Hogwarts at Christmas time. It's fantastic. Whoever runs those pages, thank you, and also here's a plug for you.
Right? They are great. I have been at your house when you've had them on, and they're lovely. I think when I was dog sitting for you last month, that's how I drank my coffee in your den with like the ambience on. It was great. It was lovely. Yeah.
Amber, what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
I drink wine. No. I mean, yes, but
as long as, like
moderation. Everything in moderation. Let's see. What do I do? I do try to stay active. I tend to go a slightly different way. I do like going up for walks. I do that with my dog every day. So making sure to keep that up through not just the holidays, but the winter. And then I love a cozy yoga session. I found here's our another plug. Yoga with Adriene on YouTube. She does a blanket yoga, which is so lovely. It's all very like calm. You're doing a lot of stretching. It's not super strenuous, but like you're wrapped up in blankets and like have a little blanket pillow nest. It's perfect. It's one of my favorite things to do through the holiday season to like unwind and find some calmness and stillness. otherwise, yeah, I like to make my favorite foods. A lot of them are things that like we grew up with or that just feel very like comforting and cozy. So food is usually my my go-to. Yeah, I guess I don't really do a ton. And, taking time for myself when I need it and, saying no to things if I know it's going to super stress me out.
I want to go back to this blanket yoga. Hold on.
It's amazing. Okay. It's so good.
I believe you that it's amazing, but I also have follow-up questions on like, how do you not get tangled in the blankets? Because like I could see myself just like really struggling with something. Like already moving my body is a little like I've played sports, so like I understand where my body, but like when in poses and things like that, like I just see like like down dog becoming just like the blanket like over your hands and like your butt in the air, but then like you pull it too tight and like can't like walk your feet to your hands. Like I just see it going awry. So I like need more information on this blanket yoga. And is it really blanket yoga, or are you just actually taking a nap? Like, like you just curl up on the floor with like your pillows, and that's totally okay if that's what you're doing. And calling it blanket yoga, like, what are we talking here?
I mean, that's how you end blanket yoga. No, so they're all floor poses, right? So you're not like, you're not standing up, you're not doing flows like I would normally make you do. It's all like on the floor. You're just kind of stretching and relaxing. It's nothing super strenuous. And you just kind of are in your little blanket fort so that it's nice and comfy and soft. And you can like put the blanket around you while you're like stretching, or like on tabletop. It's really nice. Would recommend.
So what I'm learning is we have to figure out how to link to things like in our description of the episode so that we can link to the ambiances and blanket yoga for people.
Perfect. I'll work on that.
Yeah, it seems like that would be really cool. I'm gonna go find blanket yoga because I need a nap. It's what it sounds like to me.
You've got to do some stretching first and then you nap.
I'm going to post it to Instagram and be like, hey, episode 2, we talk about blanket yoga. This is my version. It's just me. Like
it's just you napping.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, why not? I'm doing it. Am I doing it right?
I mean, as long as you're getting something out of it, you're doing it right.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, I don't know what I'd be getting out of it other than like restful sleep. But, you need what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Thanksgiving coming up, and you meant the reason that was a good segue because you mentioned food, and I was like, there's a big one coming up with food, and a lot of people feel a lot of pressure around Thanksgiving for a lot of different reasons, but obviously it's an entire holiday devoted to food, which I can imagine for some people is really kind of stressful. Those with eating disorders and things like that, like not having struggled with that myself, but I can see how that would be probably something that is really hard to deal with. Also for people in, the LGBTQ community, not everybody has a great relationship with their family, but feels a lot of pressure to be around their family during the holidays. And I can imagine that is also really stressful and not something that you want to like look forward to if like these are the people who have ousted you or you don't have a great relationship with, but you feel that need to spend time with them even though they don't make you feel good about yourself. Like that's such a weird dynamic to like think about of like, your family is like, hey, I don't like any of the choices you've made and I don't, agree with you, but come hang out with me and share this really in-depth meal.
Right? Yeah.
Like what
it's
a
not
weird
just like
thing.
grabbing a coffee. It's like an all-day affair.
Yeah. Oh, and then also you have to bring something. So like,
Right.
and I don't know, like I know for me, like I love sharing food with people and like hosting and doing that kind of stuff. And it's, I couldn't imagine feeling like, hey, I have to go somewhere. I have to bring a dish, something that I love to share with people that I don't like very much.
Uh-huh. That's hard.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can only imagine like, oh, bring your favorite dish. Why? I don't want to bring it to you people. I don't like you that much. Like, I'm sorry, you don't get my sausage stuffing. Like, it's mine.
It's good.
So yeah, I think that that's something for like our friends out there who are dealing with those kind of underlying things to, we know that it happens. We feel for you if you need somebody to chat with, like come talk to us. So you can message us on Instagram, share your like weird Thanksgiving stories with us. Like I love hearing other people's stories. So like anytime that somebody's like, hey, listen to this shit. Like, all right.
Like all ears.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'll buckle up. Tell me about the time that you like, peed in grandma's soup because she made you angry. No, don't pee in other people's food. That's weird.
Yeah, just don't go. Set those boundaries.
Just don't go. It's hard though. I mean, especially if you have like everybody trying to like get you there. I think it's easier when it's like you're having a one-on-one conversation to just be like, no, like, thank you for the invite. But I feel like around the holidays and specifically like around Thanksgiving for those who celebrate is just, you get ganged up on. And it really comes in that like, that, calls for conformity, right? That the APA put in their definition, like demanding and threats, like people get really aggressive around wanting your time at Thanksgiving, which is weird. It's like, just let people be people. Like, who cares? I remember growing up that my grandparents wanted to go out to like dinner at a restaurant, like a local restaurant was having like a Thanksgiving style meal on the day, and my grandmother just like didn't want to cook, and like the uproar that just like calls. She was like willing to pay for everybody to go too. Like she's like, they're having a buffet. Like I don't have to cook. Nobody has to clean. Like
that sounds perfect.
Do this. And it was, right. And everybody was just like, no, like that's not Thanksgiving. It's like, well, what is like? It's just another day. Like, right? Like, why can't that be Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Like, why does your grandmother have to put all this time and effort into the day for you? Because that's what it is. Like, 100%.
It's like you slave over the stove while we like eat cookies and play sorry and like, people helped, but it's still just like they get. And this I think is a good topic, and I think we have it slated. The traditions, like things that fall into tradition, and like how people get attached to that. Yeah. But that's a whole nother episode. We won't go diving too deep into that. But okay, so bringing it back around to social pressures, what things have you learned over your lifetime of being on this earth, how to cope with social pressures? Because I think you probably cope with social pressures better than I do. I think I just fold to them. I think I'm such a people pleaser, and I'm such a like, extrovert that I'm just like, okay, why not? Like, why not alter my schedule to fit this other thing in? Like, I just
I guess thinking about it, that is true. Let's see, what is my learning? My learning is to just move far away from family, because then it's too hard to see them. No, that's not fair. I love my family. Most of them. I mean, I think what I've learned, especially in recent years, is that it's okay to say no. Um, I've learned to kind of put my sanity, my mental health, um, ahead of what other people want, or expect of me, and just say no if I don't want to do it, or if, like, I already traveled earlier this fall, I'm traveling now, um, so I'm not traveling for the holidays, and I'm perfectly comfortable at this point in my life saying, no, I'm not going. I'm staying home. I'm, chilling by myself with my dog for the holidays, and be very comfortable in that, for myself, and in talking to my family about it.
That sounds really lovely. I think I'll try that for next year because I've already committed to things this year. I've already said yes. I've already dug myself into that hole. So things, I'm on a continuous learning path on how to cope with social pressures during the holiday season. That is something that I am working on, clearly. So yeah, I'll try that for next year, Amber. If I give myself a year in advance to just say no the entire time, I think it'll go better.
Yeah, you've got to start early and often.
Early and often. It's kind of like working out. Early and often.
Yeah. So maybe next year we do Friends Christmas with our dogs again.
Oh yeah, going back to that, I really enjoyed that. I really had fun. I think also, because I lived so far away for so long, it felt like I had to make the time during the holidays. Now I live closer, and while I feel a lot of pressure this year, mainly because we spent so much time in Virginia, and like we didn't get up to see my folks as much because of some family stuff going on here, and so I do feel a little bit of like, not guilt, but just like, yeah, it went like almost a year without Shelby seeing my family. So like knowing, like, one of the reasons we moved here was actually to be closer to family and to be more present, and like,
there's your mistake.
Didn't quite make it this year. Yeah. Well, I mean, you lived closer to one side of your family for a little while. Like, while you were living closer, I was living further away. We just reversed roles.
Well, I mean, now I'm pretty equally split between. I'm equally far away from both families, so it's easier to find that balance of, well, I've gone to visit you, now I'm going to go visit you. Yeah,
and I think I have to get better about, hey, how about you come to me?
Yeah.
Like, why is the burden always like fall to me? I think because I was younger and I was like, but now I'm like, I don't feel like getting in the car and driving 4 hours. Like, how about you do it?
Yeah, I think that's also something I've learned, is that a lot of relationships that I have with family and some friends is very much one-sided. Like, it's always me having to travel to go see them. And I'm just kind of over it, honestly. So I'm like, well, if you want to see me more, you know where I live. Come see me.
Right.
So yeah, just kind of take that attitude of like, it's a two-way street. We're all adults. You have a car.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess a good way to wrap a bow on this, see what I did there, is to find some balance. Like, learn to say no, thanks to invitations, like understanding, I mean, especially for me, not going to make it to every party or event. And like, it's okay to pick and choose, and I have to be a little bit more compassionate with myself. And I'm sure a lot of people out there have to be, of like, it's okay. Maybe you had a long day at work, or you spent all day decorating, and you want a glass of wine. Like, don't guilt trip yourself into being like, well, I had a glass of wine yesterday. It's like, so what? That's okay. And remember, you don't have to earn your food or drink. That's a big one that I think a lot of people are, like, I have to go do the turkey trot so I can have my mashed potatoes. It's like, no, you should go do the turkey trot because, like, you get to be with like a community of people, and a lot of times they're very local, and you get to like hang out with people. A lot of people dress up and do those kinds of things. So like do the turkey trek because you want to, not because you're trying to earn your mashed potatoes.
Yeah. And just eat your mashed potatoes because mashed
They're
potatoes.
delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that we all have a tendency to, go to extremes during the holidays, one way or the other. And like you said, the trick is to find that balance, to find that middle of the road. Don't feel like you have to avoid everything and become a recluse like me. But, finding that balance, like you said, of also being able to say no and knowing for yourself that you don't have to go to every social gathering. Being compassionate not just with yourself, but with your friends and family, who might be pressuring you because you don't know. Well, you might know. If you don't talk to them that often, you might not know that maybe they're feeling down. They're, maybe the reason they're pressuring you is because they want you to come, because they want you to cheer them up, because that will make them feel better. Like your family said, they haven't seen you as often. So they're feeling that pressure to want to have you there. And, there is that just general pressure of the holidays that we need to spend time with family. So they're probably feeling that too. So this time of year, we feel overextended. We feel undersatisfied, because we're maybe not doing things for ourselves that we should be, are losing our routines. So, just take a step back, slow down, take a breath, snuggle in a blanket and stretch a little, have a cup of tea in front of your YouTube ambiance, screen, watch the cheesy Hallmark movie with your glass of wine, or go to the gym, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Amber, this has been fun. I'm so excited to do this again next week.
It has been. Hopefully together next week, and not on opposite sides of the country.
Yeah. So don't
awesome.
forget to follow us on all of our social media, where we post tips and tricks for dealing with the holidays, workouts on the go, and, like and subscribe and do all those things. I don't know. I'm not a YouTube star yet, but definitely subscribe to the podcast, download it, listen to it when you're doing your holiday travel, and maybe you'll learn something new.
Awesome.
Cool. Well,
all right.
see you next week, Amber.
See you next week.